Hi, I'm Kevin Tharp, and this is the third of our Fireside Chats on SEO. Today, we're going to be talking about social and video, or video and social, depends on which order we get to it. And honestly, I can't think of a more timely topic for us to talk about today. And so today we're being joined by two of our friends from Thomson Reuters, Brittnee Dawson and Casey Hall, who are very well versed in this topic. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Brittnee introduce herself, and then we'll go forward from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Brittnee Dawson. I'm a senior marketer at Thomson Reuters, and a lot of what my job is doing marketing to large law firms, which is a unique place to be. But historically, also one of my big passions is video. I went to school for film. I started at Thomson Reuters about 8 years ago as a video editor. Then worked on a product management team where I managed our video products. And through this entire time, it's been an enriching experience, I guess, to say the least, because video has evolved so much. I remember at school, we were lugging around all this equipment. We didn't even have cameras in our pockets. And now everybody has a camera and can do video. So it's a really interesting landscape to be in.
All right, Casey.
All right. Hi, my name is Casey Hall, and I am social media director for our corporate communications team. And in that role, I really don't actively post anything to social media, but instead sort of act as an internal consultant for social media. I put together our policies, our best practices, a lot of our trainings, work with all the tools that we're going to use, and make sure that all of our employees have everything they need to do social media. So work across our entire Thomson Reuters business, 100 different countries, 45,000 employees, making sure that we are doing the best that we can with social media to connect with our customers and prospects and achieve all of our business goals.
Okay, so the conversation today, again, is social media and video. And let me get my questions up over here. The first thing, and gosh, social and video are so related, and yet they're so different topics. We've got so much that we can talk about here. So let's start with what's going on in video, and sort of where we're at and what happened to get us here. So it's just sort of setting up the stage for the conversation. We'll start with the video, and then either the conversation will take off and we'll go there, and then we'll come back to social, or we'll do the same thing for social and figure out where this is going to go.
Yeah, so how did we get here? Or maybe I can start there, is technology. And I mean, that's not only in the video world, but that's impacted every part of marketing. So like I mentioned, you used to have a big expensive camera to just record video. Now all you have to do is take out your little iPhone and you can create something that people will engage with. Sometimes the more organic, the better. So almost everybody can be a video marketer these days. Obviously, there's secrets to the sauce and how to be successful, but it's really interesting on where we are. And I think there's all different types of content. So things that come to mind is like, Snapchat or Facebook and Instagram stories. That's always going to be live, and that can be live as well as engaging video content. Just pick up your phone, hit the button, and there you go. But then pending the sales cycle or your business where you are, that's when you're going to get more professional type of content, customer testimonials, maybe more high-end production. So you definitely have those very expensive thousands and thousands of dollars invested in video up here. But then you also have that true organic content that can be just as engaging and receptive to your audience. That's just hit with a red button. So there's just this wide range, and it's very interesting on what you can do. And I can tell you from our team's perspective, it also is very challenging to know when to be organic and when to spend the money on that production. So experimenting, that's kind of where we're at. Video has been around for a while, but that's also challenging on figuring out what could we do that can engage in our audience, but also be a professional business. If I was marketing lipstick, I mean, just look at Kylie and what she is doing and how organic she can be and just be herself. She's her brand. We could even go off a large topic with social and video as far as influencers. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that are coming to mind right now, but it's interesting on what you can do with your business and video.
Okay, so let's go ahead and toss it to Casey here, and kind of where are we at right now with social, and frame this conversation, and then we'll dovetail it all together.
Yeah, actually, I think a nice way to kind of segue from the social or from the video, one of the biggest things we see in social is more video. So, and not just, I think people sharing videos has always been a big part of social media, but now all the platforms are really incorporating video natively into the platform. So now on LinkedIn, you can actually record your own video and it will play within LinkedIn. You don't have to link out to a video in another place. Facebook, a while ago now, added the video button down at the bottom, so you can go into just video content. And I think that, increasingly video, particularly mobile video, is going to be important for social media and a bigger part of what we do in social media. So certainly those worlds are coming together very quickly. The sort of other big trends that aren't necessarily brand new, but I think have been going on for a while and continue to shape what we are doing in social media is really the two areas of social media that are most important to us right now are paid social media. So how we are using our ad dollars, instead of doing banner ads, doing social media paid placements with all the targeting that's available there, which gets you into a whole nother issue of where that targeting information comes from and the ethical and proper use of that targeting information. But paid is a huge area. The other area is, well, we call it employee advocacy, but really how we are activating individual voices in social media. So we have our branded channels at Thomson Reuters for the Thomson Reuters corporate Facebook channel. For individual products, we have other channels. And those are going to continue to be important, something that we're always going to use. But the area where we're seeing the most activity and growth for us is by activating our internal subject matter experts, our leaders, even people who are maybe more rank and file employees within Thomson Reuters who want to share Thomson Reuters content, share the kinds of things that they're working on, help establish their own professional brand. And ideally, there's sort of a mutually beneficial situation there where we can help them to have a stronger social media presence and give them thought leadership materials, and they share those things. And it helps them to be seen as experts. And when our employees are seen as experts, that certainly helps us. And then it gets our content out there. So those are like the two areas that I think are most interesting right now in social media. The paid has been there for a while. The employee advocacy stuff that we are starting to do a lot more of is the other area that's really interesting. There's some reasons behind that. Part of that is the changes that the platforms have made themselves into how far we can, what our reach is when we just post something natively on our Facebook page particularly, but other places as well. We just don't reach as many people anymore. Facebook has changed their algorithm in such a way that unless you have something that gets a lot of shares and a lot of engagement on its own and kind of goes viral, it's a pretty limited reach beyond beyond that native people who might be coming to your platform. So that's why we do have to do the paid and those other things. So that's been a big change for us, and something that we're adapting to. So other things that I see coming up are moves to things like individual messaging apps. So whether that's Facebook Messenger or something else, but ways to connect directly with our customers.
And that sort of brings us back to these fireside chats. These fireside chats are really a result of the same kind of thinking that both of you are talking about. It's like, how can we get our message out in a way that for us as a university program, we really don't have a budget for going into high-end broadcasts, and we've wandered through a few different technologies having problems. We've settled in on this social media / YouTube live format for this. for a couple of reasons. One is this makes it accessible to our students who are the primary audience for this. But the other thing that it does by us putting it out onto our social media is that starts spreading our brand around. Look at the things that we're talking about. Look at the conversations that we're having. And so I guess it's possible to have video without social media, but I think that social media without video is very lacking these days. I think it so embraced the concept of social media that it's kind of hard to step away from that.
Yeah, and I actually, to kind of bounce off the sharing and the how to connect to your audience, I was talking to another friend who's a marketer for another big company here in the Twin Cities, and she was saying a lot of people want to connect with the emotion behind a company or a brand or a product. So kind of what Casey was mentioning on how this grassroots employee sharing content using hashtags, I think that's what is also connecting, and kind of the psychological aspect of what we share and what we put out on the web from a marketing perspective also needs to be really authentic and organic, and video is a good way to do that. And social, that's where everybody is at, right? And video, that you can see me, hi, you know? So I think that's kind of where the world is going to.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer. It's a study that comes out every year. I'm not sure what the survey size is, but it's a very well-respected study, and asks a lot of different questions about whether people trust messages that they get through different mediums, who they're coming from, how that differs by geography and things. But one of the things that we've seen for the last few years, and then accelerating over the last 2 years, was a declining trust in institutions, whether that is media institutions, government institutions, corporations, and an increasing trust in people like me. So people want to hear from people like me. And that was actually the highest trust rate, more than a government expert or a media personality or something else, was that someone like me was the highest one. Changed a little bit this year, where experts actually finally came out a little bit above people like me, but still both were far above all the other institutions. And exactly, and if we can have, the more authentic our people like me are, the better. And so, a video like this is a great example.
Yeah, the one thing that I have to be curious about, because I mean, the 1,000-pound elephant in the room is what's happened with like Cambridge Analytica, and I mean, that's just one of things. Over the last 18 months or 2 years, there have been a lot of what some people consider abuses of the trust of social media, and it's starting to come out what kind of things that really looks like. So the sort of Cinderella days of social media, where it's like, it's no problem, you put it out there, suddenly it's starting to have societal repercussions, and that's the video. I mean, I'm really going to try not to separate video and social media in this. The whole impact of that, I think that trust barometer is going to swing. You're hearing a lot of people talking about it, and it'd be interesting to see where you guys think that this is going to bring us.
Yeah, I just to speak quickly about the Cambridge Analytica stuff, I feel like either generationally or just kind of the way things were a few years ago, there was a sense that, maybe we're almost past concerns about privacy. I mean, we're worried about getting our credit card number stolen, not necessarily worried about whether Facebook knows what my favorite movie is, kind of all the demographic information. I think that we all felt like, you know what, I'll fill out this survey on Facebook so that I can see what I would look like as a rock star and give them access to my information. And I feel like that was something that a lot of people kind of said, you know what, go ahead. I'm not as concerned about privacy. But I really think that when we see a potential effect like this, where they have gone and, I think the word weaponizing demographic privacy, private data is, unfortunately kind of accurate in this situation. But when people start to think about those things, we're seeing, I think we'll see some reticence from people to put everything out there. Maybe make your Instagram private. Start to do things that on a personal level make people more comfortable, but make it more challenging for us as marketers and people who are using this information. And maybe that's what we don't just deserve, but maybe need, is to be more challenged and to directly connect with people rather than just being able to sit behind the Facebook ads platform and come up with this hyper-targeted sort of thing. We need to engage with people more authentically. But I think about, Kevin, you and I a year or two ago talked about seeing ads that you weren't expecting to see. My wife brought up something similar recently. She's like, I never searched for a Roomba or whatever it was. You and I talked about it a couple times, and then I saw an ad, and that might have just been based on other purchase histories and all kinds of things. Who knows? But that's, I think, the problem is, who knows? Like, we've kind of crossed into that divide of like, wait a minute, this is too good now. Like, it's getting too good at figuring out what I want, that maybe my Alexa is spying on me, And when people start to have that kind of concern, people start to unplug Alexa and not give the kind of information that allows us as marketers and communication professionals to use social media as this really, really high-powered tool for advertisement targeting. And instead, it becomes something different, not something worse or bad. But if people become more more cautious about sharing those kinds of things, and Facebook strengthens its policies, I think that's good for America and good for the world, probably, in a lot of ways. Tricky for marketers, though.
Yeah, and to bounce off to Casey, I saw a news story the other day about a teacher just doing like a digital class. Let's talk about Facebook. Let's talk about Snapchat. What is happening? What are you interacting with on your mobile? And just being more aware of what you are doing. And it's not just magically appearing, and just having that understanding, I think it's really good. And I think that's the conversation people are going to have. And just like Casey said, it's going to definitely make the marketer's job harder. But I think as a society, that's a really good thing to be aware of what that technology in your hand or in your home is doing.
Yeah, I can only really speak to my own, my own responses to this. And the fact that it wasn't the people who were answering the survey, it was the friends of the people that answered the survey where they really got the data. And, my thought is, well, all these people that are doing all those silly surveys, they're now putting me at risk. And so, it's like, okay, do I have a tool that I can block them from including me in those kinds of things, which I don't know that that's there yet, but I heard something from Facebook that, they're looking at the next generation of tools are going to allow you to better control your own data. And frankly, they absolutely have to do that, because if people get weirded out about the influence of their friends and that becoming a way of sharing data about me, if I don't have a way to stop that, then that becomes the thing that kills that kind of social media app.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the questions that we've posed so far is what's going on in social and video and what happened to get us here. One of the things that happened recently is YouTube also along this lines of how do we control where we're putting our marketing messages. They demonetized a bunch of accounts that didn't fit into this trust threshold that they've created. My own account was one of the ones that was demonetized after several years. So, I mean, I never made much money on it, enough that I didn't meet the criteria. But there are a lot of small-time marketers, people who were using video to establish brands that now aren't going to have access to that little bit of monetization that for some people, it was what encouraged me to really, start building a branded channel was, oh, I can get, some money from YouTube by watching this. And that I've been demonetized with probably millions of other small-time broadcasters.
And I think if I talk to my little brother, he's a big YouTube fan, and once upon a time he said, "I want to be a YouTube star," and I think that reality is kind of shrinking, and I think the kids are starting to realize that, and how the YouTube world is changing, and the video world is getting bigger, and the YouTube may not be as big of a player now that we have Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. YouTube is definitely not going to like hearing that, but I can tell you it's going to be a lot harder to be competitive. And if we think about OTT, over the top, cutting the cord, I have my Netflix, I have my Amazon Prime, you got Hulu, and now YouTube is trying to get, those subscribers. So it's going to become a very interesting digital video space. As far as monetization for those little companies that you're kind of getting to, it's going to get harder as the space just gets even more crowded and crowded. I don't have an answer for that. I don't have much experience in that, but it's going to be really interesting to see even how the cable networks respond to this.
Yeah, I agree. I think certainly Facebook anyway, I saw a presentation by them recently, and they are doubling or tripling or whatever, however many times you can, double down on video. And the presentation they gave, laid out a lot of stats in terms of like 9 times increase between 2016 and 2021 in the amount of video that goes through Facebook, and that seems even conservative. The way that they're organizing their video content, they sort of have like on-the-go content, which would be just like an Instagram story or something that you see quickly. Lean-forward content, which is maybe like a collection of short videos that you might like, oh, check that out, little 15-second videos. But then also thinking in a space where I didn't really think about Facebook, but kind of that lean back content, not necessarily, a television station of Facebook, but, some of that longer form content. So to me, it sounded like they were getting ready to kind of approach on all those different angles. And it feels like once Facebook gets into all those different spaces, that's really going to draw away from some of the things like YouTube, where we're seeing be the home for a lot of video.
So I recently, the last Fireside Chat I posted, did in the same format as this, posted it, streamed it live to YouTube, had somebody say, oh, why don't you post it natively to Facebook? And I asked him why I should do that, and I didn't get an answer. Maybe you guys can enlighten me to why that might be a better strategy than YouTube, because up to this point, I've always posted video to YouTube and then embed it either in Facebook or a blog or whatever. So YouTube was my video go-to. Are we moving away from that, and why?
I recently saw an article from Kate Spade, who they recently had a conversation about where should they put their media. I really should know this, but I don't remember exact channel what they decided on. But they were on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. They were on all these channels, and they needed to consolidate and figure out where their audience is going to be, because each channel also has a different experience. So if you create something for YouTube, pending the audience that you have, they may have a different engagement and way they consume that media on Facebook. That's the same for Twitter, Instagram, whatever channel you want to post. So I think it's becoming this, figure out where your audience is, what demographic that is, and be on that channel versus try to cover everything, because the way you consume it and the experience is different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the experience, particularly if you're using like Facebook Live, is a very different experience than posting a YouTube video. Major League Soccer started doing something recently where they actually, they'll show their games on Facebook. You can go to their Facebook page, not every game, but go and see their games. And they have not kind of traditional sports announcers, but either former players or people who are experts, kind of super fans, who host those and sort of announce those games. But then there's a comment stream that goes along with them. So they're talking, and then they're commenting. They're kind of doing the second screen right within the first screen. So your experience isn't that you're, as you'd watch on TV, just watching a soccer game and then maybe tweeting about it and following the hashtag. Here they have that experience all built into Facebook. So you're watching the game, you have these sort of expert announcers, like you're watching the game, with your best friend who knows everything about soccer sitting on the couch, and also comments from the entire world that they're engaging with at the same time. And that's just not an experience that can really be replicated anywhere else, as far as I know, in quite that same way. So I think some of these platforms are trying to, create a different, broader experience around video, particularly where they're taking that second screen and making it one screen. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is, I don't have the statistics on the algorithmic searches and things, but for LinkedIn and Facebook, they want to keep you on their platforms. So if you have a video that's hosted natively on Facebook and LinkedIn, my guess is that Facebook is much more likely to serve that up to people than it is something that's going to be linking them out and taking you off of their platform. They want you to stay. So by keeping it in their native platform, which is their preference, you might do better on Facebook than just in terms of your reach than you would if you were sending them out to somewhere else.
Yeah, and I can, from experience, trying to put videos on YouTube and try to link to landing pages and making this holistic, engaging experience with YouTube. As a marketer, I've actually had a lot of difficulty. If I don't have the budget, I can't get people out of YouTube, actually. So if I want to overlay a video saying, click here to register for this event, or click here to download this white paper, it has to be within the Google world and with the YouTube world. I can't even click out of that. So from a marketer's perspective, that's not as engaging and effective for me to use. So we have to be creative on how we utilize that and how we promote different styles of content on different channels.
Yeah, and I think more broadly for the social channels, working with marketers or just working as their own ad agency, they're trying to do more of the things that we might be otherwise thinking of using tools like Eloqua or demand generation tools for sending people to a landing page. Instead, Facebook just says, no, do that right here. We will have the commerce happen on Facebook. Click to buy right within Facebook. Don't go to our landing page. You can donate if you're on Facebook and use a hashtag for some organization. It'll suggest that you add a donate button, and then anybody can just add a donate button, and then you're making money for it. People are staying within the platform. So I think Facebook particularly, but all the channels are looking at, all right, we're not going to just own the very top of the funnel where we're getting views and sending people off to a website. We can own the top, the middle, and even the bottom of the funnel to actually have the whole purchase process or demand generation or whatever it is happen within the platforms themselves. And I think that's the direction we see a lot of it moving. And in some ways, it makes some of the social ROI a lot easier to prove. If you can say, well, not only did we drive traffic from Facebook, but actually here's the check, because a lot of people, the commerce happened right within Twitter, right within Facebook, or whatever it is, or we got the contact information directly, within the platform.
Yeah, if you're in fashion and you're on Instagram and a lot of your followers are there, they're now opening a store on Instagram. And I was just amazed by that. I thought, oh, that's a win for Instagram / Facebook at the same time.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So from a financial aspect of this, if I've got a storefront on Facebook or Instagram, I'm guessing that they just take a percentage of whatever revenue is clicked on through their site. Does anybody know?
I don't know specifically how the different deals work, for kind of a retail organization, but yeah, I think it's similar, to kind of what Amazon's done, and if all your business happens through Amazon, they get their cut. Makes your life maybe a little bit easier, but now you're sort of owned by them. You're subject to their algorithms, and that's where it is.
So one of the questions that I'll save this question for later. Let's look forward in a crystal ball here. And if you're looking out 2, 3, 5 years, and I won't ask you to look further out than 5 years because that's just ridiculous. Where do you see these things going? Are you able to read any tea leaves here?
Let me screen. I'm gonna try something fancy. I'm gonna try to screen share here on this live event. See if this works. There's an article out there. Oh no, it's not working. Oh no.
The infinity loop.
Yep, we're just gonna. Did it stop? We're good.
Yep, we see your face now.
Okay. Yeah. But I think, what was the stat? 81% of the internet will be video by 2021. Actually, let me just pull it up. I don't want to pull it wrong, but yeah, I mean, video's not going away by any means. It's pretty important, and it's not. It's here to stay. So start using it now. Start figuring out what to do. Pick up your iPhone, download some apps. Maybe go to YouTube, probably Facebook, any other channels. They have videos for you to watch and learn how to do it. And I think virtual reality, 360 video, that video is just going to become more of an engaging experience than it ever has now. Like Casey was bringing up that example of that immersive have video here and chat here. That's just going to become more and more part of our experience, I think. Big.
But before you step in there, Casey, yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of virtual reality recently. It's the area of my research. And so I've been spending a lot of time immersed and watching videos in virtual reality is cool. I've gotten to where if I'm going to listen to music or watch, say, a concert or something like that, I'll go into virtual reality. I'll wrap that stage around myself so that I'm standing on the stage watching the video. And yeah, I'm glad that you touched on the virtual reality, because I personally think that's going to be something that really, when it hits the consumers, because it's only sort of played in the ballpark of consumers, I think it's going to change things a lot, and it's inherently a video medium.
Yep. And Thomson Reuters recently at one of our sales meetings this year, we had kind of come learn about our product through virtual reality. And all our sales reps went through training on this product, and they literally saw a little paperclip come up in front of their face, and then kind of like walk through history and kind of an immersive product demo, basically. So I can see in the future here, trade shows, you're going to put on a pair of glasses and you're going to go experience the product, not only from a computer screen, but you're going to be walking through it virtually. And then I think the next big thing that we've kind of touched on is the future of video kind of being everywhere, and big companies trying to find ways to increase those subscribers. Yeah, I'm going to have this exclusive content, but you got to give me $5 a month to see it. You no longer have to have this cable subscription, but you have to have a subscription to HBO, USA, whatever channels you watch, you're going to become a sole subscriber to them. And they're going to try to find to keep you there. And then the creative thing that is going to happen for us marketers is trying to figure out how can we still reach those audiences when we don't have the television. That if you were to do big TV ads, how are you going to reach them? So maybe Super Bowl ads won't be as big as they are today. So time will tell.
Yeah.
But that's a very big, interesting concept.
How do you reach a fractured audience?
Yeah, so I agree with the virtual reality, 360 live video, augmented reality, definitely see all those things coming. You know, as I think about the social media space a little bit more specifically, where I see a lot of change coming, I think, is moving away from these big open public platforms into more messenger platforms, which is a challenge, right, for big businesses. But I think that once bots, chat bots get better, I think that's going to be a primary way that all of our customers for all businesses are going to be engaging with our businesses. The expectation will be that I can instantly connect with some sort of AI chatbot that's going to be able to answer most of my questions from whatever platform I am, if it's Facebook Messenger, if it's a text, if it's something else, but having what's both at the same time a personalized kind of experience and a completely artificial experience, because there's just not enough people to do it, and we wouldn't do it that way anyway. But that rise in sort of one-on-one communications between customers, prospects, and sort of chatbots and other things within messenger apps is going to be one of the big changes that we see in terms of the platforms that we're thinking about and how we're engaging with our customers. It'll be more one-on-one, but at the same time not, because the one of those will not be a real person. So I see that as a big move that I expect to see.
And there's one movement that I don't think has picked up a lot of speed now, but I think will. As digital becomes more and more part of our everyday lives, there's going to be this front behind it saying, how can we go back to our roots of like making sure the kids go play outside, pick up an actual book. There's going to be this weird thing of like limit your time on your phone to an hour. So not going to lie, myself, I've tried to figure out like get away from the mobile device, like put it down, go have conversations, go spend time with family and friends, go enjoy the outdoors. I think that will also come, especially when, you know, digital's in front of us all the time. So how can we still enrich the actual reality versus the virtual reality?
So, I think about that as, some of the very obvious digital thing, but we're all talking into laptops or whatever, right, at this moment, and how like looking at your phone and some of those things recede, but I have my earbuds in. And so while I'm not looking at technology or thinking about it, I might, just do a quick tap and be like, hey, call my son, make an appointment for me, or, walking around my kitchen, talk to Alexa. And so the technology is still there, whether it's IoT or voice search, but it becomes, just a part of the sort of experience without us, pulling out a phone or doing something else. It just becomes more integrated and more pervasive, but not as visible. I feel like that's something I notice every day because I walk around my kitchen all the time talking to my fridge. Not my fridge, but talking to Alexa, who could probably talk to my fridge if I could figure that part of it out.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I know our household is changing now with an Alexa, getting a little different. Instead of saying, hey, I want to listen to music, pick out the Pandora station, you're just telling Alexa, play some music. Every once in a while, she's like, oh, listen to 60s country. Nothing wrong with 60s country. It's just not my not my kind of music. So that came out one time, and I was like, next, Alexa. Yeah. That's a good point, Casey.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with Allison Anderson. We were talking about how I introduced a Alexa to my mother. My mother's got Alzheimer's, and we were talking about how easy it made it for her to communicate. And she actually called me on my cell phone through her Echo while we were recording the interview. So, but it's becoming ubiquitous. It's becoming easier. It's becoming pervasive. And some people, there's always that whole discussion of, well, you're not doing things the way that we used to. And I've been listening. I've been a technologist for a very long time now. And I've listened to people say, oh, this technology is ruining your life because you're not joining the Lions Club or bowling leagues or whatever. And it transitions you. So, in socio-technical systems, the technology affects the social and the social affects the technology. And I completely agree about the backlash when it gets so ubiquitous that it's always with us. I do it myself. When I'm not here and the sun is out and there's temperatures where you can survive outdoors without huge coats, I go outside, I garden, I leave my phone in the house unless it's time to take pictures to post to Facebook of how my garden is progressing. Yes, I'm that guy. I admit it. I'm also a food porn guy. I take pictures of, whatever I'm cooking or whatever I'm eating. But that's just the fact that we have names for people like that just tells you how pervasive that technology has gotten into our social lives. And you always have to be careful about putting a value judgment of good or bad because technology is inherently neutral. It's how you use it that is good or bad. With the virtual reality, I can totally see it is so powerful. It is so immersive that there will be people that have, I'm going to use the term VR addiction, where they are so drawn to it that they go there. And I remember them talking about internet addiction, where people would go to the chat rooms and stay there all day and ignore their kids. That's going to happen. It's a more powerful, it's a richer environment. Technology is going to change, but we have to find coping mechanisms as individuals and as marketers to figure out how is it that we're going to use this technology to move forward. So are there any recent events or articles that you guys want to bring into this conversation that we haven't started touching on, or anything that you want to bring to this conversation we haven't brought yet?
You know, Kevin, I sent you, or I'll send you a couple links. I was at a presentation maybe a month ago, the Facebook one that I was mentioning, and it was the focus was social media and video. It was a great presentation, sponsored by Hootsuite, which is one of our vendors. But it's about 2 hours. You can watch the whole video, and if you're interested in kind of where this stuff is headed, that would be a great place to look. So I got the link from Hootsuite, and I'll send that over to you. That'd be a good one. Then I have a few articles that I'll share. Most of what I've been looking at lately has been around the Cambridge Analytica stuff, and kind of seeing how that's going. Oh, and I wanted one other thought about what you were saying just before this in terms of the amount of time that we spend on our phones. I try to be conscious of that. On Sunday, we still get the Sunday paper. That's the only paper that we've gotten for a long time. We didn't get the paper. We got no paper for a long time. But I was like, Sunday morning, I'd like to leave my phone away, sit down, make some coffee, read the paper. And I was like, I just spent, an hour and a half or whatever reading through the paper. People used to get 2 newspapers to their house every day of the week. I mean, it's not that different to spend 2 hours sitting, on your couch reading the newspaper every night versus spending 2 hours sitting on your phone, scrolling through Twitter. So sometimes I push back a little bit on the fact that everything is going in a handbasket. We've always had things that we did to kind of, entertain ourselves or inform ourselves that might seem isolating, but it's just part of how we exist.
I read a really cool article about this years ago, and what it was talking about is the evolution of scrimshaw and not work, and how it changed depending upon the technology that was available. So before, and it was specifically looking at sailors, and so before the printing press, there was this huge artistic presence of really high quality scrimshaw, which is the carving of bones and tusks. And knotwork was extremely elegant and fancy. And then when the book came, they started reading the books. And so they spent less time doing the scrimshaw and the knotwork. Yeah. And then when it switched to radio, they were suddenly, so there's ebbs and flows in everything, and the way that we use our communication, whether it's mediated or non-mediated, digital or analog, or just escaping to ourselves, absolutely, it's a cyclical thing, and we never know what the impact is going too far out there. But absolutely, and I'm the same way. I push back. It's like, if your children don't know how to use this technology, they're not going to be prepared for the business world that they're going to go into. I make the argument that they would be better off spending the time that they use to learn to do cursive to learn to do coding instead, because they will use coding after the 6th grade, but they won't use cursive after the 6th grade.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to get us off topic there, but.
Oh, no, I like going off topic. It makes these things interesting. Anything that you wanted to talk about, Brittnee?
I would just say the one thing that we kind of haven't talked about is just the sense of community that social and video can have. So we talked about being a lot of engaging, but I follow Tubular Insights. Definitely go check them out. They do a quarterly recap every quarter, kind of detailing what is trending, what has gone up, what has gone down. And recently they've kind of talked about like pancake art or whatever. Think of the ice bucket challenge, all those weird things that kind of, they're awesome for a month and go away. I think it's a marketer's dream to have your brand be tied to one of those, technically go viral. So those articles are really interesting to just see what content is resonating with whatever vertical you are in, food, fashion, sports, gaming, whatever have you. So that's definitely interesting, just because I can't consume every little trend that's happening. So that recap every quarter is really, really helpful to know that if I were to make something next quarter, what is engaging with certain audiences and say, you know, maybe I could do pancake art video on something. I don't know if I would, but that's kind of fun to see what's happening in the world.
Okay, so my last question to you guys is, and I'll ask both of you this in turn. I'll go to Brittnee first. Has video from a marketing standpoint gotten easier or harder in the last handful of years?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to say twofold. It's gotten easier to produce and create. The technical aspect has gotten easier. The ROI, the strategy, making it the most effective type of content, making sure it gets in front of your audiences, making sure that they create the action that you want them to take after video has gotten extremely harder. If you wanted to be a YouTube star 10 years ago, it was a lot easier than it is today. And it's getting real tough to think that I'm going to spend this much time on creating video. It could be thousands of dollars. It could be $0. And then trying to get your business to grow or get them to purchase your product, whatever your end goal is, has become that much harder. And sometimes the $0 video, the most organic, has the best results. And then sometimes the video that costs $1 billion, not that it would, it could, that one may not have as good results, or it could also have some great results. So it's a hard game to be playing, but it's also an exciting one because it's changing every month, if not every day.
All right, Casey, same question.
Yeah, I think that Brittnee really covered it. Definitely easier in the fact that you can now create, very viable videos to use. I know I created a video and then converted it to a GIF, posted it onto Twitter, from the back of a taxi cab. It's really easy, and there's a lot of things that you can do now that are effective and work really well in terms of production. I think the strategy that Brittnee talked about definitely requires a lot more than it used to. And I think the other thing that's harder is that it used to be that video was pretty novel. If you had, some video that was a cool video that you were sharing on social media, you were out in front. And now you're behind if you're not. So I think that makes it harder, in that, like, as we're thinking about, what kind of creative content do we want for a campaign or just for, general sort of storytelling and for our brand, video almost has to be a part of it at some level. So that's actually a little bit more difficult, in that it's something that you always have to do really in order to reach the people who are paying attention on social media, or to get their attention.
So I probably should have clarified that, Casey, with you, I was specifically asking the question about social media. And I know that video and social media are so closely tied, as we've been talking about. But do you want to add anything concerning whether social media has gotten harder or easier?
The easiest thing about that, or I'd say the easiest answer there, is it's gotten harder because of the ways in which sort of the honeymoon is over, and well over at this point, in terms of being able to just, get thousands of followers on Facebook, post something on Facebook, every one of them sees it in their feed, and basically built your own kind of advertising channel for, whatever it costs you to gain those followers. I mean, those days are over. So it's more challenging, in that way. And I think that things like Cambridge Analytica are going to make the ads part of it much more challenging. So yeah, it's just gotten harder. There's no other part of that answer. It's gotten harder.
Yeah, I sort of get the same question, or it's the same kind of answer. This stuff has gotten easier to do, but harder to make effective. Kind of across the world, across the spectrum with the digital marketing. One thing that's coming up is a movie called Ready Player One. If you haven't read the book, the movie's coming out, I think, Thursday. And the way that I read the book, I haven't seen the movie, with the lenses that I wear, I was looking at how they were using marketing within virtual reality. So it's that next thing. So just quick question. Are you guys planning on going and seeing Ready Player One?
It's one of my son's favorite books ever. So yes.
See, I'm gonna be that person that I don't even remember the last time I was in a movie theater. I know that sounds so bad, but probably when it hits Netflix. Is that a good answer?
Well, it ties into what you were talking about before. You know, this whole how do we interact with media? And so, like, I guarantee you, I won't be there Thursday most likely, but I'll go see the movie. But I guarantee you that I will be sitting there with a large drink and a large popcorn, because that is the way that I've always done movies. And I love to have that shared experience with other people in the audience. And it absolutely has to have, you know, the popcorn in one hand, the soda in the other, or pop, or wherever you're from. But yeah, so I want to thank you guys. We could talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours. We could talk about any one of the topics that we touched on. I want to thank you guys for giving us your time, sharing your knowledge and your expertise. Thank you to Thomson Reuters and FindLaw for supporting our program and providing people like yourselves who allow us to stay current. If you're interested in the field of digital marketing, specifically the technology side, you might want to check out our program at the University of Wisconsin-Stout. We're the Bachelor of Science in Digital Marketing Technology. Thank you, Brittnee. Thank you, Casey. I'm Kevin Tharp. This has been the third Fireside Chat. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Brittnee.
You guys.